Hi, everyone. This is Donna, and I'm so excited to have this first ever conversation on the VCC platform. And of course, because this is still the International Women's Month, we decided to have a conversation about how we can create equal space for the women in our network by helping them break the biases that they face. And I'm so glad because here to join me in this conversation are powerful leaders of our network who have seen the biases, experienced the biases, broken those biases either for themselves or helped others do that, and have taken their own space and helped others do the same. And so I'd like to welcome to this conversation, of course, Sally Fofana from Cote d'Ivoire. We've got Amir, he's a citizen of the world, and Kalai, who is from Malaysia. We all know them, and so I'd like to hear what their thoughts are and hear their voices on this subject. So let's jump right in. Of course, we all know that networking, our business, is actually a great business for both men and women. I think ours is one of the few professions in the world where really there already is equal space. Because here in network marketing, you get paid the same regardless of whether you are a man or a woman. There is no difference in the salary scale or in the pay scale. You get promoted based on your achievements, not based on your gender. And you basically get to achieve whatever you want to achieve based on the work you do, not based on the gender. However, one of the things that we've really noticed still over the past 20-something years in the business is that although a lot of our networkers are women, and this is actually validated by statistics that during the pandemic, most of the new businesses that were started by women. However, the story starts to change, or the narrative starts to change when it comes to women who are succeeding in the business, or when it comes to women who actually have businesses that are built, to last. Then, the equality, so to speak, changes to the point where we see still today more men taking leadership roles or taking up the leadership positions than women. And so hopefully this conversation will inspire, will, equip and empower all our VCC viewers, both men and women, to actually be more mindful and intentional when it comes to creating equal space and breaking biases. But before we do that, of course, we'd like to start off by asking, what makes women great entrepreneurs in the first place? What makes women great networkers? I'd like to start with Sally.
Thank you, VP Donna, for this great introduction. So happy Women's Month for every woman in the world. For me, the women have the ability to do many things at the same time. She has the power to do many things at the same time. She can clean the house at the same time. She can manage the family at the same time. She can do many things, yes. And for me, it's the same in the entrepreneurship, because if you want to be a good entrepreneurship, you have to have a skills. You have to manage people at the same time. You have to share your vision. You have to follow your result. You have to do many things at the same time, and you have to manage very well many things at the same time. For me, the women can become a good entrepreneur.
That's true. And I think that you see women really rising up, stepping up and doing anything and everything, whatever it takes to make sure that their families are taken care of. And that to me is a great example of entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is making something out of nothing. And women are very great at creating something out of nothing. Kalai, you've seen this yourself. I mean, you work with and you've raised really powerful women entrepreneurs in your team. What makes them great entrepreneurs?
Thank you for creating this space at VCon for us to talk about this topic. Okay. And I think women are naturally, are trained to take ownership and leadership from home. Like what Sally was saying, we are trained at home to do many things. Okay, many of those abilities that we have today are trained from young at home. So women are trained to take this responsibility, ownership, entrepreneurship, networking, being an upline to an organization. It's all about ownership and leadership. And from young, you are told, clean up. That's your role, and you clean up. Okay, and
right.
yeah, and there's no second thought about it, no arguing with your mother who is cleaning up, or take care of your sibling. We know it's our responsibility and we take it seriously, because if something happens to your sister or brother, you're going to get it. There's a punishment. So I think that that ability for women to take that ownership, responsibility seriously, and like what Sally said, to see things through, I think that has been very, very crucial in bringing out this leadership and ownership in women. And in my organization, I think that fact that I shared these common things with women, so they see someone doing it, and they also have that permission, they could also do it. I think I don't raise women consciously so far, probably. I think it's just a natural effect that takes place because I'm doing it. So they actually do, they do it.
Yeah. I'm really glad you raised that, Kalai, because I think that part of the strength of women is really inspiring others and bringing others along. Maybe that's part of the, like you said, that we were raised to take care of the younger ones. And so it's more refined and defined in us that we think of others as well. Said Amir, for you, and one of the things that I admire about you is that you have very powerful women leaders. Okay. In your mind, what makes them great?
Thank you, VP Donna, for this opportunity. To be honest, I was first surprised to talk about, to be invited into this table to talk about women. With three beautiful and powerful and very successful women here. And at the same time, I was honored. I just want to maybe add one small thing that in my experience of the network and in my experience in life, why I'm saying because although I'm a representative of male gender, but I have a mom who raised me. And I have sister, I have wife, and I have daughters also. So I cannot be biased and selfish in talking in this topic. And I think that the very and most important thing that a woman, why a woman can be and must be, I mean, the entrepreneurs and the leaders, because the very creation of human race and humanity, that duty by Almighty was given first to woman. I mean, she is carrying, our mother is carrying us 9 months. It was not given to men, that duty or that responsibility. Maybe he believed in woman more. The very care and love and everything is in our mother's, hand. I get most from my mother, although I love my father and I know his place is separately, but I could hardly imagine my life without her. Secondly, the very nature of women are very suited to this entrepreneurship or networking. Why? Because one of the main thing of quality of any networker is to be in service to others, in service to the team, in service to the network. And this is naturally given to a woman. And how come a woman can be in service in home, in family when she is young, when she is married? And how come we think that she cannot do the same thing in the network? The man must learn this quality, but the woman, I think, has it naturally, and it makes them so powerful. I'm just reminding their power. I'm just reminding them that they are already powerful and given that nature.
And I think it's important to be reminded, and it's important to hear it from men, especially, because I think sometimes when we hear it from other women, we feel like, of course, you're going to say that because you're a woman just like me. But when we hear it from men, there's a different, there's a different weight to that. However, the reason why you have to remind your women, leaders and the women in your team of that power is because a lot of times we forget, or maybe we focus on other things. And I think that one of the challenges that women face still today is the biases that are around, whether they're prejudices or preconceived notions that we have and that govern our decisions, whether it's because of culture, it's tradition, society, ourselves. There are biases that are still at work and at play. I see this very clearly as a V partner when I start to engage women and challenge them to really step up and rise up in rank or rise up in their V ambassadorship. I see that there is a conflict. And of course, some of those conflicts are real, right? Some of the challenges are real. However, there are those that are because of biases. Yeah. Maybe you can tell us, give an example of what these biases that you've had to personally face, maybe individually, or that you've had to deal with in your team. Who'd like to start? Sally, would you like to, tell us about a bias that you had to break and how you broke that bias?
For me, my first barrier I face in this network is the barrier of my society. My society says the network is not for the women, is only for the men, because you must to go out your house to talk to people. Alors, donc, souvent, on sort tard dans la nuit, on ne peut pas rentrer tôt, on rencontre des personnes qu'on ne connaît pas. Alors, ça nous fatigue souvent. On nous dit qu'une femme ne peut pas rester tard comme ça la nuit, faire des jobs qui ne sont pas forcément pour des femmes, c'est seulement pour des hommes. Et donc, ce n'est pas fait pour les femmes, et les femmes ne peuvent pas avoir de succès dedans parce que souvent, il faut s'arrêter devant des hommes, il faut coacher des hommes, et on dit que la place de la femme, c'est derrière l'homme. Donc, alors, est-ce que tu peux traduire?
So, because the woman, in some places, she doesn't have right to go out, especially at night. She will meet people. She will do like training. So they say that the woman should stay at home, just to take care of the family.
The second barrier is our own barrier, because the women don't know our power we have, so they don't know how to use the power. Because if you know the power, if you know everything you can do at the women, you can do more in the network. Like AVP said, the woman is in service, naturally in service. You can do many things. If you know, you can break this barrier.
Sally was saying this whole thing is cultural, the way we were brought up. Like for me, for me, it was a lot of battle had to do with emotions. I saw emotions as Sally as a weakness. Sometimes, I tend to be passionate. I'm passionate. I take a lot of pride in what I do, and I voice out when I don't like something. And people tend to like, oh no, she's loud or she's being emotional. And I tend to take a step back many times. And then I realized when a man comes to a meeting and he gets upset, then everybody is like, oh, alert, something is not right. We need to fix it. So when a man voices out, or something external is not right, for me, it is more for me. For me, I thought it was like, now something is not right with me. eventually I really had to learn that emotions are so powerful, Sally, and even help my leaders understand that this emotion that women are gifted with, the sense, the ability to sense, the ability to sometimes just trust our instinct, is such a gift in building an organization and network, because we can now lead better and be have more empathy, because we could feel for people, include people. And being a leader in network, it's all about people, and working with people, it's all about understanding and care. And this emotion is one of the greatest strength we could bring to the table to build a powerful organization and a leadership.
So, say, Amir, I mean, you have a growing group in Tanzania. And so, what do you have to say to what Sally mentioned, that her bias was the society? Is that something that you've faced and you've seen in the women in Tanzania? And how did you help them break that bias?
Yes, of course, there are some biases that comes from the traditional aspect, and that there are some biases that comes from our cultural background of every society. These traditions may have differ. I mean, that there are some biases that comes from, I mean, so to say, the religion background, and there are some biases that comes from the marriage institution, the family. There are some biases that comes from, I have to accept that, from the man. And at the same time, there are some biases that comes from the woman to themselves. But if I address only one biases that comes from the woman, which I saw even in Tanzania or even in Ghana, Nigeria, or Brazil, or Russia, or even in Central Asia, that feeling guilty is maybe one of the, I mean, every woman, I mean, thinks and accepts that she has some duties at home with kids. And at the same time, there is a network and there is a business outside the home. So she feels like she's either had to separate or departed into two things. So, feeling guilty, also one of the things that keep them not growing or holding them back. I saw it within my own family. I mean, my mother. One thing I saw in my mom, sometimes she would feel guilty. But in my perspective, when my child will grow and what he will say. So now I'm grow up, what I will say. The best thing that did my mom, it is she becomes successful.
Right.
And this is the best lesson that she gave to me. The best example of any leader is leading by example. That paradigm, I think we need to again remind them. That's all.
I think that's amazing, because that was something I struggled with when I started my direct selling business. I had 3 small kids. I was a single mom, and it was very difficult for me to be both provider and at the same time the nurturer. However, network marketing to me was the best gift I could ever get, because it enabled me to both be provider and still be home-based, have my home-based business, and do both roles. But I did have to speak with my children. I remember gathering them around the table. They were still small. We had the board meeting. Okay, we had the team meeting. And I said, okay, kids, for the next, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, however long it's going to take, I'm not going to be as present as I used to be, because I need to build this business to ensure that we have the security that we need, for you to, growing up. And I believe that it's because of that, I had that conversation with them, that I was able to somehow ease the guilt. The guilt would still come, but at least I knew we had agreed, and I still tried my very best that when I was home, that I was full-time present, fully present, and not, physically present, but mentally absent or emotionally absent from them. But I believe that the best thing I was able to do for my children was show them how to really be the best person you could be and do whatever it took. So like you said, the best example that your mom gave you is how to be a successful example. Powerful. So how do we now, and I'd like to go to my last question, how do we now as leaders, whether we're men, women, help other leaders, the people listening, watching us today, how do we help them? If there was one tip that you could give them on how they could raise more women leaders in their network, what would that tip be? Said Amir?
Of course, there can be so many ways how to encourage women and what we can do to bring more women leaders into our network. But I can address that the very nature of a man and woman, if we understand that very nature, for me, it is one of the important things that I am dealing with my leaders, especially with the women leaders. It's to hear them, to hear them out. I mean, to listen them. Maybe there are so many things I cannot understand, but by listening, when they start to talk, first they talk their emotion, but after a while of talking, they will speak out their problems. And at the end of the talk, they will find their solutions and they will thank you and they will go. But at the same time, there are the very nature of men that is also clashing with some things. When I had my daughter, I totally changed. And one of the most important things that I changed in myself, it was I become more protective. Mm-hmm. So we have a protective nature over our daughters, and at the same time, whatever you do, you cannot neglect the protective nature of a man over the daughter, either over mother or over the wife. So it doesn't mean that protective of nature means that the woman is weak. Mm-hmm. Even the strength, the most powerful woman would also want a gentleman man who would open the door.
Right.
Yeah. So that I mean about that the protective nature of a man does not clash or does not mean that the woman is weak. So when we understand also the man, so and I'm sure that the woman can use that nature for their success. So if a man is very protective and does the things, so use it, milk it.
I actually agree with that. And my husband, Lendy, till today opens the door for me. And I happily let him open the door, although I could do it very much on my own. But it's a good feeling to have someone else do that for you. Thanks, Amir. Sally, what about you? How can leaders raise more women leaders?
Like said, men are a protector for the women, but how to milk it? For me, it's the barrier. It's the barrier. If the women know the power we have, we can break the barrier. We need for the women to encourage and to make a confidence all the women in the team. So women need it. Women need it to be a confident. She has the confidence. She can break the barrier.
And by breaking the barrier for yourself, you actually make space for others to follow you. And that's something that I've really seen so powerfully in Kalai. Based on what you've been doing, Kalai, and all of the work that you've been doing so consistently and so passionately over these years, what would be one tip you could give our networkers on how they can raise the Kalais, the Sallys in their organizations?
Women are very powerful. We underestimate ourselves so much. And Said Amir said, just listen to them. They'll find their own solution. It is so true. Women actually very powerful. But what I personally realized in my organization, working with women, many of them do not have the support from their husbands or the families. The husband might say, I support you. But saying that I support you and really being with them in the journey, it's different.
Yeah.
And having and having a man upline saying that I'm with you and really being in the journey, it's different. So what I have done that has helped my women in the organization is to create this support for women, give them more space to come together. As what Said Amir said, voice out, let them talk, let them spend more time together. So they have this call a fellowship, or you call it whatever you want, a sisterhood or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But we have a place to come back to. And this is where they feel a sense of belonging. They have this support. They have this backbone. And once a woman feels she's supported, and Miss Donna, trust me in this, I think you know this more than that, a woman can do so much. And it's okay. Bring yourself 100% to table. And we will start from there.
I actually want to meet Saidamir's mom. I think that she's raised such a phenomenal, and been such a great example, because that most women struggle with. I don't understand.
VP Donna, you are invited to Tajikistan. Please come.
Thank you. You hear this, I don't understand women, but really all it takes is just to listen, right? So I wish we had more time. And I agree, Saidamir, we need to have another session like this and another chat like this. But I'd like to really end by just maybe synthesizing everything that I've learned, from and heard from the three of you. Bottom line is, of course, men and women are equal. We know that. We believe that. And that's how our grand uplines, Dr. Sri, DJ, Japa, that's the culture in the V, right? That, we don't just say men and women are equal, but we really feel that. But I think the challenge really is more that the opportunity is there, but then we get held back. Whether it's the men getting held back to really working more with women, or women being held back by themselves. But the bottom line is this: when we say equal space, that simply means that if women don't take their space, there's going to be a void, right? Because men cannot take the space of women. I was having a conversation with Said Amir when his wife had to leave, right, for 3 weeks. He had to be mother to his children, and he went crazy because that's not the space that he, would like to fill, and that's not the space for him. So let's understand this. Even in the business, when we don't allow each other to take our own space, that means that there becomes a void. And whenever there's a void, you can never really get the full potential of your organization. So taking equal space is true for both men and for women. And when God said that it is not good for man to be alone, he didn't create a baby girl, right, to be, with man. He created an equal, with unique strengths as well, because together, that's when they could really do more. So we are better together, but that simply means that we create the space and we take our space, we own our space, and whatever biases we have, that we work to breaking those biases, and with the support of other men and women in our team, I believe that we can. And to close, I think I couldn't have asked for a better family, a better tribe, than the V family, because to have somebody like Dr. Sri DJ who believed in women, in me, more than I believed in myself at the beginning, and who really pushed me and other women, we couldn't have asked for a better environment to really fulfill our dreams. So thank you so much once again, Said Amir, Sally,
thank you, VP Donna,
and Kalai for sharing your voices. Looking forward to hearing more of your voices when it comes to creating equal space for women by helping them breaking the biases that they face. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much, V partner Donna. Thank you so much, AVP Kalai. Thank you so much,